Hi folks, my name is Deepan, and as part of the Education Advocacy Program, I'd like to talk to you about colleges and universities. Today's presentation consists of 5 major topics. First, I'll give you a little bit of information about myself and walk you through my educational background. Second, I'll define the term post-secondary and reference it many times so you're able to build familiarity with it. Third, we'll take an in-depth tour of colleges and look at its advantages, disadvantages, and the 3 qualifications it offers. Fourth, I'll highlight the same things except this time it'll be with universities. And fifth, at the end of the presentation, I'll address how knowing about colleges and universities will put you more at ease about your future post-secondary careers. So without further ado, let's get started. My educational background can be summarized in 2 lines. Between 2013 and 2017, I attended the University of Alberta to complete my BSc degree. In 2017, I decided to enroll in the B.Ed after degree program because I gravitated toward the teaching profession. I'll graduate in 2019 and I'm excited to teach high school students like yourselves biology, physics, and chemistry. You'll notice that when people refer to a degree, they often use shorthands like I did. BSc stands for Bachelor of Science, while B.Ed stands for Bachelor of Education. There are many abbreviations used by post-secondary institutions for other degrees, and we'll see them in the later slides. Post-secondary. Post-secondary is a fancy term that means after high school. In case you ever forget, break down the word into its constituents. Post means after, secondary means high school. In Canada, post-secondary education is divided into 2 categories. On the left side, you have qualifications like apprenticeships, certificates, and diplomas. These qualifications are provided by post-secondary institutions called colleges. Examples of Albertan colleges include Red Deer College, Medicine Hat College, SAIT, Olds College, Lethbridge College, and NAIT. On the right side, you have qualifications like bachelor's degree, master's degree, and professional degrees. These qualifications are provided by post-secondary institutions called universities. Examples of Canadian universities include University of Calgary, University of Alberta, McGill University, University of British Columbia, University of Saskatchewan, and University of Toronto. What this slide highlights then is that if you ever attend a college or university, you will be attending a post-secondary institution. Now, you might ask yourself, well, what's the difference between colleges and universities? The primary difference that sets these 2 post-secondary institutions apart is that colleges cannot grant degrees, while universities can. So, to reiterate, post-secondary means after high school. Post-secondary education is divided into colleges and universities, and colleges cannot grant degrees, while universities can. Now, we'll focus on advantages, disadvantages, and qualifications provided by colleges. Starting with advantages. Colleges are educational institutions that provide training programs for very specific occupations. Imagine going to school to learn about plumbing. As a plumbing apprentice, you only take plumbing-based courses. As such, colleges provide very specific and specialized training programs for the occupation you choose. Second, in general, colleges cost less than universities. Since qualifications offered by most colleges take a shorter amount of time to complete than the average university degree, you'll be taking fewer courses, and because of that, your tuition costs will be lower. Third, colleges allow for a more intimate support system. Imagine being in a class of 75 students versus being in a class of 500 students. The professor that's employed to teach the course will likely know students' names and spend more one-on-one time explaining a concept as compared to a class with 500 students. Keep in mind, however, that I'm only comparing first-year courses at colleges and universities. Third and fourth-year class sizes for colleges and universities are roughly the same size. Fourth, colleges aid transition. After graduating high school, direct enrollment into a university degree can be challenging. Class sizes in universities are much larger, the academic expectations are much higher, and the steep learning curve associated with transitioning from high school to post-secondary can create stress. To alleviate these worries, Many colleges partner with universities to streamline this transition. If your eventual goal is to do a bachelor's degree, you can complete your first and second years at a local college and then complete your third and fourth years at the university. Quite often, the university that your local college partners with will be in another city. This is especially helpful if you want to save money by skipping out on paying rent and crashing at your parents' place for the first 2 years of post-secondary. However, this is not the case for all degree programs, so do check when you're applying to your local college. Now that we've talked about advantages, let's look at the disadvantages. The first disadvantage is decreased versatility. The flip side of training for a highly specialized occupation, such as plumbing, is that it's almost impossible to switch between training for one occupation to another without being penalized. If you decide partway through your plumbing apprenticeship that you want to become an electrician, the plumbing courses you've taken so far will unfortunately not transfer over to your electrician apprenticeship. Because of this, you'll have to start from year 1 of your electrician apprenticeship. The second disadvantage is fewer available resources. Since colleges are generally smaller than universities, the number of organizations that set up networking events or come to campus to recruit students for internships and summer jobs is lower than the number that come to universities. Additionally, there aren't as many student groups to choose from. Student groups serve as a conduit for you to hone your interests, gain leadership skills, and diversify your experiences. If you serve as president, vice president, treasurer, or any other executive of a student club, jotting them down on your resume attracts the eyes of your future employer. As such, while colleges house a decent number of networking events and have many student groups, that number is a lot lower than that for universities. Overall, though, colleges have a lot to offer, especially when it comes to qualifications. The 3 qualifications offered by colleges are apprenticeships, certificates, and diplomas. Certificates and diplomas are the first 2 qualifications offered by colleges. Certificates qualify you for very specific occupations and require a year or less to complete. Examples of jobs that require certificates include professional bookkeeper, lab technician, health and safety officer, and teaching assistant. Diplomas, on the other hand, qualify you for either very specific occupations or a set of closely related occupations, and they require about 2 years to complete. Examples of jobs that require diplomas include legal assistant, mechanical engineering technologist, licensed practical nurse, and business administration. Do note, however, that business administration can either be a diploma or a degree program. If you attend a college, it'll be a diploma program. If you attend a university, it'll be a degree program. Now that we've talked about certificates and diplomas, let's look at how you'll apply for them. Applying for certificates and diplomas, in Alberta at least, is a 2-step process. Step 1 includes accessing the www.applyalberta.ca website. Step 2 includes fulfilling 5 requirements. The first requirement is knowing your Alberta student number. You can find this on your high school ID card, but if it isn't there, visit the following website and fill in the required fields. Completing these fields should result in the website giving you your Alberta student number. The second requirement is knowing your high school name. Now, hopefully you haven't forgotten this after graduation. The third requirement is disclosing your high school marks. All of your high school courses and the marks you received in those courses should be listed on your high school transcript. Allow the website to access this transcript from your high school. The fourth requirement is choosing the college you want to attend. Some examples, like I mentioned before, include Red Deer College, NAIT, SAIT, Olds College, and Lethbridge College. The fifth and final requirement is paying a mandatory application fee so the website can process your submission. I do want to reiterate that although this information is specific to Albertan colleges, the process should be extremely similar for colleges in other provinces. Apprenticeships are the third qualification offered by colleges. Apprenticeships are training programs that combine on-the-job training with in-class training. On-the-job training includes hands-on practical work, while in-class training involves lecture-based instruction. An apprentice, like a carpenter, heavy equipment technician, instrumentation technician, automotive service technician, cook, plumber, welder, or a pipe fitter, spends 80% of their time doing on-the-job training and 20% of their time doing in-class training. It's important to note that apprentices are paid during the practical component of their apprenticeships. After spending 2 to 4 years completing their apprenticeship, candidates are then eligible to write the Red Seal exam. Passing the exam earns them the Red Seal, and this permits the individual to work as an apprentice in any province within Canada. The application for apprenticeships is a 3-step process. Step 1 includes accessing the trades and occupations list. This list, like you'll see in the next slide, outlines the 85 possible apprenticeships available in Alberta. You can access this list at www.tradesecrets.alberta.ca/mytradesecrets. After you've selected an apprenticeship, move on to Step 2. Step 2 includes finding an employer. Resources that'll help you search for job openings include the classified ads in the newspaper, as well as job posting websites like Indeed and Monster.com. After finding an employer that's hiring, move on to Step 3. In the event that your first contact person doesn't have any vacant positions, ask them to redirect you to an employer that is hiring. As I've learned, Canadians are extremely nice people and will go to great lengths to ensure that you're at least partially taken care of. For those of you on Step 3, you and your employer will complete an apprenticeship application available through the My Trade Secret website. You will then submit this application either electronically or mail it to a specific address. After completing these 3 steps, you will have earned the designation of an apprentice. Now, there are 85 apprenticeships available in Alberta. All 85 of them are listed on this slide. To know more about an apprenticeship, click on the occupation's title, and you'll be redirected to a slide with information about the apprenticeship's job responsibility, number of years required to finish schooling, and average hourly and yearly salaries. To come back to this page, simply click the Back to Apprenticeships button located on the bottom right corner of the slide. All the information provided in these slides is taken directly from a Government of Alberta website called ALIS. In addition to the information I mentioned, ALIS also provides real-time information on an occupation's job outlook and estimates its current demand in the Albertan economy. Now, take a few minutes to browse through each of these apprenticeships, and when you're done, we'll reconvene to move on to the next part of the presentation. Now that we've covered colleges, let's shift our discussion to universities. On this slide, I'll highlight the advantages, disadvantages, and the 3 qualifications offered by universities. Focusing on advantages, universities provide the freedom to enroll in either a specialized degree program or a general degree program. Specialized degree programs require you to take very specific courses designed for very specific occupations. Examples of specialized degrees include a Bachelor of Science in Nursing, Bachelor of Science in Engineering, and a Bachelor of Education. General degree programs, on the other hand, have fewer course restrictions, but the programs aren't tailored to one specific occupation. Examples of general degrees include a Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts, and a Bachelor of Commerce. As such, universities offer you with the choice to either specialize or enroll in a general field of study. The second advantage is versatility. Bachelor degrees provide flexibility by giving students the freedom to transfer between different bachelor programs after their first or second years without much penalty. While not all programs allow this, most programs do. This is because many post-secondary institutions know that a majority of students won't exactly know what they want to do or what profession might interest them right after high school. So, they provide what I like to call a 2-year buffer period, where you can dip your toes into a diverse enough set of courses and reflect on what courses reinforced your interests and what courses didn't. Do note, however, that this doesn't hold true when switching between different programs after your 3rd year. The third advantage includes research opportunities at the university. Professors are always looking for first, second, and third year students to assist them in their labs. Labs at the U of A have developed AI technology for Google and Microsoft, created space technology for the Canadian Space Agency, and looked at the effects of cannabis usage. If this interests you, visit the university website to browse through research conducted by professors. A simple email to a professor that highlights your passion for the research can go a long way. And fourth, universities act as hubs for networking opportunities, especially for students seeking internships or long-term employment. In the computing sciences program, for example, students host networking nights where representatives from Batista, the video game that makes Fallout, Ubisoft, the company that's responsible for Assassin's Creed, and Electronic Arts, the video game company responsible for creating Battlefield, FIFA, Madden, and Mass Effect, talk to students about upcoming ideas in the video game industry, and recruit students for internship programs. Universities then, much like colleges, have a lot to offer. Now that we've covered the advantages, let's look at some of the disadvantages. Going to university is not cheap. Although you receive a high-quality education, paying for that education can be expensive. Depending on the program, you'll be paying anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 a year just for tuition. Tuition, by the way, is the amount of money you pay for courses and other administrative fees. Universities are also competitive. Applying to a university program requires you to have a mark of 70% or above in the courses used to calculate your admission average. We'll talk in detail about this in later slides. And finally, the three qualifications that are offered by universities include bachelor's degree, master's degree, and professional degrees. The most common qualification provided by universities is the bachelor's degree. Typically, the bachelor's degree takes 4 years to complete. But for people doing part-time study, and we'll talk about what defines part-time study in a little bit here, it can take 5 or more years to complete. In most bachelor's degrees, you'll have to declare a major and a minor. A major is just a fancy term that means you'll be taking a higher number of courses in a field of study, while a minor is another fancy term that means you'll be taking fewer courses in that field of study. You also have the option of doing a double major. This means you'll be concentrating on 2 fields of study for which you'll take equal number of courses. Thus, to reiterate, a bachelor's degree takes around 4 years to complete, and they include picking majors, minors, or double majors. Now let's go back to the term part-time study. When students enroll in a bachelor's degree, they can either do part-time or full-time study. Most universities in Canada define part-time study as taking less than 3 courses per semester. Full-time study, on the other hand, is defined as taking 3 or more courses per semester. While a student doing part-time study will graduate a little later than a student doing full-time study, part-time study affords them with the opportunity to work, volunteer, or be engaged in other extracurriculars during their school year. This is one of the ways by which bachelor degrees provide flexibility. Thus, bachelor degrees confer you with a lot of options. Now, take a few minutes to browse through each of these degree programs, and when you're done, we'll reconvene to move on to the next part of the presentation. The second qualification offered by universities is a master's degree. On average, a master's degree takes 2 years to complete and is only done after the completion of a bachelor's degree. Like the bachelor's degree, you can choose what program you want to do, but unlike the bachelor's degree, there are 2 possible routes you can take: a thesis-based route or a non-thesis-based route. A thesis-based route involves heavy research focus and little time doing coursework. It also involves a thesis defense, which we'll talk more in detail about in a later slide. A non-thesis-based route involves a lot of coursework and little research focus. This route does not include a thesis defense. Although this wasn't mentioned before, another qualification offered by universities is the doctoral degree. On average, doctoral degrees take 5 to 7 years to complete and are done typically after the completion of a master's degree. The doctoral degree involves heavy research focus since you select and experiment on a question of interest. Receiving the doctoral degree relies upon successful defense of your thesis. The thesis defense involves a group of university faculty members asking you questions about your research for 60 to 90 minutes. A successful defense means you'll graduate with a PhD. An unsuccessful defense means you'll have to try again. It's also important to mention that as a PhD candidate, you do get paid. And this pay comes from working as a teaching assistant, a research assistant, and/or grants provided to you by funding agencies. The last qualification offered by universities are professional degrees. On average, professional degrees take 4 years to complete and are done typically after a bachelor's degree. There are some professional degrees, however, that only require you to complete 2 years of a bachelor's degree to gain admission. Most professional degrees are highly competitive, require entrance exams, and have high job guarantee. For the next few minutes, browse through the following professional degrees so you have an idea of what their requirements are. While the following application is for the University of Alberta, most university applications have similar requirements, of which there are 2. The first requirement is to complete high school courses that the university will use to calculate your admission average. The university calculates your admission average based on 5 specific courses. What these 5 courses will be depends on the program you'll be applying into. For example, the image on the left shows you the 5 courses used by the Faculty of Arts to calculate your admission average. These courses will change if you're applying into science, engineering, nursing, etc. The image on the right shows the minimum grade required in each of the 5 courses, which is either 50% or 60%, depending on whether you apply for early admission or normal admission. The main thing to take away from the image on the right, however, is that you need a 70% average based on marks from the 5 courses to apply into university. So, to reiterate, universities use specific courses to calculate your admission average, and the admission average typically requires you to have a mark of 70% or above. Now, I realized that in the last 30 minutes, I went over a ton of information. If you kept up with that information, great. If you feel like you don't remember much of it, that's okay too. If you're nervous and unsure about what you want to do, I see that as a good sign because maybe today, in the next week, or in the next month, you might think about how your next few years are going to look. And if you still don't know what you want to do, that's 100% okay. Maybe taking a year off or 2 after high school and reflecting on your interests before committing to post-secondary may be helpful. Ultimately, however, I want to let you know that you'll always have access to this presentation, and because it'll be constantly updated, you can always come back to this resource should you need some information on post-secondary. EAP's goal is to help you know what's out there, and I hope that I increased your knowledge base just a little bit for today. And as always, thank you so much for listening to this presentation. And to end it off on a fun note, here's a Jeopardy game to see if you remember what we went over.